ironically, the original idea, again, going back to the idea of trying to do everything in camera and as practical as possible, we were talking about maybe we'll build a riser and we'll put her legs through it. And I was talking to Greg Melton about, can we just dig a hole? And he's like, no, we can't. It's a national park.
We can't do anything in that park.
Right.
We can't take a limb down.
Right.
But it was a great, she had contact lenses. The trick was that the dentures actually went over her lips. So we were able to build the prosthetic so it looked like we were seeing skull and it was really, I'm tremendously proud of that makeup and how we were able to do it. And even Frank on set that day was like, dude, this is the best thing you've ever done in your career. And I was like, okay, I can retire now. Thank you.
What's interesting in this sequence actually is one of the reasons why we went with Super 16. We remember when we did the test, we tested HD cameras, we tested 35, and we tested Super 16. And remember when we opened the stage door and the look of the light coming in, and that really reminded me, here, two things really, that made us go with Super 16. One was the way the cameras we tested reacted to that change in light, the lack of control that we had, which was surprising actually, and also the way that zombie makeup looked on HD. It doesn't hide much, HD.
Yeah, and the sort of the analog, older school feel of the 16 really helped the makeup instead of hurt it.
Yeah. The colors literally changed from format to format, because the first time we were sitting there and we had one of our featured zombies, and in the HD version, when he was coming from behind a tree and there was a lot of greenery around him, he looked green, and we were all standing there going, he didn't look green when we looked at the makeup, but seeing the different formats, it made a huge difference.
I want to take it back to those tests. And so when you shot those tests, and you shot a Red camera, you shot a Genesis, you shot some Super 16 and 35, for that whole sequence, or just the door opening, or parts of it, or shots of it? Yeah.
We shot interior, we shot exterior, we shot, zombie Joe walking in full sunlight into dappled sunlight. We shot.
All kinds of light conditions, and we really wanted to see what our latitude was going to be from interior to exterior, in terms of exposure, and shooting on film. Even if the door's blown out or the window's blown out, you're still seeing detail out there. And on high def, it's just nuclear white.
And the other thing is that 16 millimeter cameras are so light.
Small.
And they're real. I mean, that makes a huge difference with the camera operators. Especially if you've got 3 cameras going at one time, and every one of them is handheld, but you don't want it to look like shaky cam. Mm-hmm. You want it to look, to tell the story, as opposed to, just be sort of haphazard.
Yeah, but you can get very guerrilla with it too, because you can squeeze. The cameras are like this. You can squeeze into places that a 35 millimeter rig would require a hell of a lot more room. You can get creative and inventive in how you use those cameras in a way that a bigger camera won't allow, including these high def cameras. I'm not convinced
that are big.
Yet.
They're
I'm
big.
not convinced yet.
They're
They're
big cameras.
friggin' huge. Found it. They found the damn lens that they created for 2-minute warning, and we used it here for that shot where the scope comes up, and literally in the same shot, you see the zombie's head explode. So there was that rig combined with a blood pumping rig.
Our foot stomper rig.
A foot stomper rig that blew blood out from behind the guy's head. And then a little gunshot dot added by Jason.
And a little paint out.
Yeah. And they painted out the rig, because you could see a little bit of it.
The weirdest thing is when you watch, and our goal was when you watch the show, we don't want you to be able to realize how we did every gag. If you sit there and you go, that's practical, that's CG, that's the person to make up. I mean, when I watch a movie, the most successful film is a film where I don't pick it apart and sit there and try to figure out how they did it. And one of the things was the exploding head, because George Romero had said back in 1977 when they did Dawn of the Dead, they would just take extras and put squibs on the backs of their heads and blow them up because there was no rules saying you can't do that.
It's great to change stuff like that up because sometimes it's a CGI effect, sometimes it's a very practical old school effect, and the thing keeps and sometimes it's a blend of the two. The headshot to the torso, the crawling torso, purely CG and brilliant. It looks like the most realistic, practical blood hit I've ever seen.
First of all, I think that Frank and I both approach what is the best look for the story we're telling, not, is it going to be on a big screen or is it going to be on a small screen? What's the best look for the storytelling? What's the best approach to communicating what the characters are experiencing? And I also think the choice of going with film makes it, and it gives it that verisimilitude. You don't look at it and think, oh, well, this is video, or you really are in there with the characters. The grain itself, it somehow makes it feel much more personal.
What about costs? Is Super 16 cost more or less or the same as video, or it depends on how you use it, or it depends on the post, or?
Certainly with the conditions we were filming in, it had benefits, as we talked about, the size of the cameras, the cost of the stock, actually the cost of renting the packages. Everything went into making the show fit for the story we were telling and, the characters.
Yeah, we finish everything at the HD level, so go buy the Blu-rays because you'll see a lot more, basically.
We were really wondering because at our premiere, we screened at the Cinerama Dome, and it held up there. So, let's hear it for 16 and and a great crew.